Everybody. So I just wanted to go over the two papers you have due this week. Yes, you do have two papers due this week. The first paper that is due is the second submission of your formal description. So you submitted your formal description in week 1, and this is the second submission of that. Now, if you did not submit your formal description in week 1, I encourage you to still do this second submission. It can be, in that case, your first submission. You won't be able to get any of the points for making the corrections in the paper, but you'll still be able to get points for any other parts of the rubric. So definitely submit the formal description if you did not submit it in week 1. But if you did submit it in week 1, you're going to want to focus on making the corrections that I highlighted in your paper in the feedback. So some things to keep in mind: anything that I highlighted in red was a spelling or grammatical issue. So you'll want to definitely review those areas. And then of course there are comments that I made through the Microsoft Word review process. And then of course the comments that I made in the rubric are the overall issues that are in your paper. Some things to keep in mind also is that I only highlight the first instance of an issue. So if you have the same issue throughout the paper, I only noted it the first time. So if, for example, you used it with an apostrophe and you were supposed to use it without an apostrophe, and you did that 5 times in your paper, I'm only going to highlight it the first time. I just can't read through your papers and make all of the corrections. There's a lot of papers to grade, so I definitely try to do my best, but just keep in mind that I'm not going to have highlighted it all. The other thing to also note is, to be honest, I may have not caught issues in your paper when I was doing the read-through. It doesn't mean that you don't need to correct them, so make sure you definitely read through those papers very thoroughly, because grammatical issues are grammatical issues and you need to definitely correct them. So on your second paper, you have your first reading response due this week. And this week you'll be reading the Epic of Gilgamesh. And the reason why this was chosen is because you're also learning about ancient Near Eastern art. So some things to think about is that the reason why we have you read about the literature of the same period of art that you're learning about is because many of the same themes come up in those two different art forms. So you'll find that a lot of the same ideas will be presented in this literary piece as are presented in the art of the same period, and that's because they're coming from the same cultural context. And so what I really want you to do in this paper is highlight those themes, highlight what is present in the art of the period and in this literary piece. Now, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the specific piece that I'm having you read, is about a great flood. Now, the easiest reference to make is about the story of the Great Flood and Noah and his ark in the Old Testament. Definitely a valid comparison to make. They are somewhat contemporaneous and from somewhat the same place in the earth, on the earth. But some things to think about is that's just one theme to bring up, and it's not really present in the art of the Near Eastern cultures that we've been studying. So although it's definitely a point you can discuss in your paper, it shouldn't be the only point you discuss. You should really be talking about what's present in these art pieces that is also present in this literary piece. And as I say in the instructions, you need to bring up at least 3 pieces of art and discuss how they illustrate the same themes that are present in this literary piece. Now you'll notice that you are required to do both a summary and a reading response. So this is the same paper. Both parts should be in the same paper, and they should be written as though they're all one cohesive piece. Just as you'll find with a formal analysis, your formal description comes first, and then you really start working on the analysis part of the paper. That's kind of the same way that these reading responses are. So you're summarizing essentially what you're analyzing, and then you're going to start analyzing it in the paper. So some things to think about is some good characterizations of good papers are a solid thesis statement and then an argument that you're going to support throughout the paper. So when you're writing a summary, it's not just a summary. You really should focus on the areas in your summary that support the themes that you're bringing up in the art pieces. So it really should be a cohesive paper with a solid thesis statement that states your argument, and then each paragraph, even the summary, should be supporting that argument and that thesis statement. So just make sure that You read through the piece carefully, you come up with those themes, you make specific citations. I'm really looking for, quotations from the literary piece that really illustrate the themes that you're trying to argue or, discuss. But don't have it just be quotations from the piece. I really want to hear your opinion about, what this piece really illustrated and how it's present in the art of the same period. So definitely let me know if anything comes up. If you have any questions, don't forget your citations. You'll notice I do have a specific note about how to cite the Epic of Gilgamesh. So you don't cite it in CMS format, you cite it in the specific ways that I outlined in the assignment prompt, but everything else should be outlined in the CMS. And recommended readings, those are just readings I included to help you get started on your analysis. I definitely encourage you to read them, but the analysis is specifically on the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is not on those PDF readings. Those are just to help you with your analysis of the Epic of Gilgamesh. So good luck. Let me know if anything comes up.